Hello, everyone. This is Bob Treemore. If you're not familiar with me, I pretty much exclusively relegate myself to Twitter. That's where I do all my posting and any interactions there. This would be my first upload to really essentially any other platform. So it is what it is. But let me just go into what we're going to talk about today is a timeline. We're going to briefly cover a timeline of where Peloton has been and potentially where it could be going in the next 2 or 3 years. What we're going to focus on primarily is their product and subscription growth. We're not going to deal with a lot of the other things that have happened to them, negative or positive. We're just dealing with what their product or SKU count is and what has contributed or will contribute to growing their subscription base dramatically now and in the future. Usually in Peloton, we're talking about people love to rehash the old days, right? It's not in a great place right now with its stock value, but as such, really, we're not seeing anyone looking at where they can be 2 to 3 years from now because what everyone is saying, everyone's favorite thing, the clothes hanger, we've all heard it 1,000 times, is most people who like talking about finance Peloton, they've already written the death notice for Peloton. Let's not write that today. Today, we're going to see where could they be 2 to 3 years from now. And is it optimistic, pessimistic, or other? Anyway, let's dive in. What I have here is a little timeline I built. We're just going to quickly go through kind of where they came from, and then we'll kind of go into where the next 2 or 3 years Peloton may be going. Just as this is based upon some analysis, this is some speculation, and this is some wide-eyed dreaming of what they could be thinking about inside the New York headquarters. Peloton founded in 2012. Bike, right? Bike came out just as soon as I could push it out in 2014. They had a commercial bike briefly, but it was discontinued soon after. It was a silver, meant for hotels and gyms and things like that. And obviously they didn't see much value in it, much differentiation between the standard bike was built well enough to service a commercial setting. So they discontinued that and just kept selling the bike to hotels and the commercial industry. Then in 2018, they launched the digital app. Now there was an app briefly, software interface UI. It was available on the bike, but this is really when they kind of spun it off into its own entity. Soon after, the Tread Plus launched, which again, most people who are made it this far are interested, have some background already in Peloton and the product. Tread Plus was the big boy, right, with the slats, and obviously it ran into some issues, and we'll come to that very soon. They also entered the UK market, Germany, and then fairly recently now, in the latter half of 2020, they put out the Tread or the Tread Mini. People got confused there for a while, and the Bike Plus, that's the one with it can auto adjust the speed and has the swivel monitor, what have you. And then after that, the Australia. Now here we get into the Tread Plus got suspended. Again, if you've made it this far, you know about the whole recall thing. There's no need to go into that. But it was suspended in 21. They took it off the market. It has not come back yet. Will it come back? We'll get to there just in a little bit. They launched some other programs. Now these, we've talked about SKUs. They launched some other programs. Again, we're still in past history now. We're talking about corporate wellness, where they actually launched an initiative. It's hard to call it an actual product. And if you go to their corporate wellness page, it's just one page and it says, "Are you interested? Email us." It's not very fancy. I think they need to build it out a little bit more if I were to be honest with myself. But they have a corporate wellness program. And very recently, Buddy just came out with an article stating that Peloton on their press release site, they acquired 14 new, I would call them more flagship accounts. I'm sure they've gotten some smaller accounts as well. But corporate wellness is alive. I don't know that it's corporate wellness, but it is alive and actually moving forward to one extent or another. They have the bike rental program. It's called a Peloton Club, where you can essentially lease a bike. Again, the popularity of that is questionable. And then around that same time, they released the single Lanebreak game for the Bike and Bike Plus, and then the guide as well. Now, before I get a little bit further into guide, let's talk about what their product mix is right now. Essentially, between the tread and the tread minus or what have you, the bike and the bike plus, guide, they essentially have 4 SKUs, right? They have the bike, they have 2 variants of it, but they have the bike, the treadmill, 2 variants, but the treadmill. So we have the bike and the tread. We have the app, which is a product, sells for $12.99 a month to those subscribers who don't have physical equipment. They're just using the app to use it on their echelon or do some yoga or meditation in their free time on their iPad. And they have the guide. So Peloton, in the last, we have to go way back. In the last, we're about 10 years now, right? They have essentially four SKUs. And obviously, we all know the pandemic happened here. No need to go into that. Everyone's well aware of that. But they have 4 SKUs: the bike, the tread, the app, and the guide. And then they have subscription building or customer gathering items such as corporate wellness, bike rental program, a software feature called Lanebreak. And they've got essentially 4 big markets right now. All right, guide. In my opinion, bike has been successful, tread has been successful, the app has been successful. There's like 3 million connected users, which means 3 million users who have piece of equipment and use the big app that's connected to their equipment. And there's about 1 million app users. So about 25% of the subscriptions are people with app users. So bike successful, tread successful, app successful, guide, I'm not going to say it's a disaster. I'm not going to say it's a calamity. I'm not going to say it's a failure. But I will tell you, based upon metrics that I've followed and reviews that I've seen and social equity around guide, meaning what people post online, is low. So I'm going to just simply classify guide as unsuccessful. And I think, to be honest, I think I'm being generous there. Does guide have potential? Perhaps. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But 3 out of 4 isn't bad. They have that. And then they have some smaller things, like they have the heart rate monitor and they have apparel. But these are the things that are driving the company. Heart rate monitors, barbells, apparel, the revenues from those would not carry the company for 2 weeks. This is what we're talking about today, is carrying the company for the next 5, 10, 20 years. Let's go into the future. Let's see what kind of I've come up with. That may or may not be right. I have no idea. I thought I'd put it down and y'all could decide whether it's garbage or there is some value here. So let's peek a little bit here. Let's zoom in. Rower, we know rower is expected. It's not a rumor. It is expected. What date it will ultimately land, we don't know. It's called the Peloton Row. Probably going to be at least announced by the end of 2022. If not, perhaps shipments starting by the end of 2022. I think we're very, very close. So this is we're past the orange line of kind of where we're sitting right now. This is less of something in the speculation range. This is something we know. There's nothing Bob Treemore about this rower. It is happening. Sell Precor. Well, I guess really technically the next one I got here is Tread re-released. I think Tread's going to be re-released. It's been off the market a very long time. Peloton has been radio silent on the Tread Plus. Completely, utterly, no comment through and through since CPSC took it off the market. CPSC's website remains absolutely unchanged. Peloton's corporate communications remains absolutely unchanged. Their corporate communications are along the lines of, when asked, they're like, when we reach an agreement with the CPSC, or if we reach an agreement with CPSC, we'll let you know. That doesn't tell us whether they are still interested in the product, because people seem to like the Tread Mini. But a lot of people really love that big tread. There are valid reasons why it's off the market. But recently, again, if you followed me on Twitter, I found some patents filed in Taiwan about treadmills with a company that's affiliated with Peloton that has two different safety measures. And both could be applied not only to the Tread Plus, but the Tread Mini, and they would probably meet CPSC guidelines to get the thing back on the market. There's a lot of margin in this Tread Plus. It's an expensive beast of a machine, but people love it. I think they're going to re-release it. I'm going to put it down here for first quarter of 2023. They may never release it. I don't know. Now we're in the very speculation part of the Bob Treemore timeline. Sell Precor. When Peloton bought Precor, it was in the heyday of Peloton and connected fitness and avoiding gyms and workout at home. I mean, I think Peloton laid the groundwork, credit to them, before all the pandemic type activities happened. But when they bought it, it just seemed, wow, this is a great fit. They're going to cover the commercial sector with Precor. They're going to cover the consumer sector with all the Peloton stuff. They've got all their bases covered. They're pretty much laying the groundwork. They're going to roll out the Peloton app and all the Precor equipment and just decimate the competition. We've heard nothing really on Precor. The only thing we heard, I think it was on last earnings call, someone asked Barry McCarthy, CEO and president, what's the deal with Precor? The analyst said. And Barry, and I'm going to paraphrase and add my own tone, but Barry said, well, haven't quite gotten to them yet. Paraphrasing, a little bit of tone. That's what I came away with. He did not seem overly excited about Precor. He did not seem overly excited about how it relates to their core business, which Barry is now pointing toward less emphasis on hardware and more emphasis on services. Precor doesn't fit the Barry mold. And so if I was a Precor employee and I listened to Barry's call and someone asked him, hey, what's up with the Precor? You haven't really told us much about it since you acquired them. And Barry comes away with, I haven't gotten to it yet. I would not fall asleep with warm fuzzies that night. I don't think Precor is long for this world in Peloton. I think Precor, as its own, as far as we know, it was bought out of a conglomerate, is probably mildly or reasonably profitable on its own. There's probably nothing that needs to be, if they do get sold off, I don't think the employees have any issues there. I think they'll be able to keep their jobs and just do what they did before. We've seen no development, no crossover, no crossing of the streams, no crossing of the worlds regarding Peloton and Precor. There's been no app installs. There's been no, hey, you got a Precor, why don't you buy a Peloton? Hey, you got a Peloton, why don't you buy a Precor? Hey, let's send Precor emails to Peloton customers and let's do vice versa. None of that has happened. It has been its own island in existence since the day it was purchased, and I don't see Barry going, this excites me. I don't want to say it was a mistake. Well, we could say it was a mistake if they sell it, because obviously that's what they determined. But I think at the time it seemed reasonable. Right now, with Barry's point of view, I don't see it lasting. I think it's gone. What else do we have on the agenda? We're going to add some games in 2023. We have Lanebreak for Bike and Bike Plus. When I'm talking about Bike and Bike Plus, I'm talking about all the bikes. When I talk about Tread, I'm talking about all the treadmills. We have Lanebreak for Bike. I think it was okay. I've ridden it a few times myself. I think to me it's kind of a been there, done that. You ride one Lanebreak game, and now you can just do it more with different music and different lengths of time. But I don't feel it's as engaging as constantly shifting instructional materials from the instructors. It is, if you enjoy replaying the same Mario Brothers game time after time after time, you are probably a Lanebreak fan. If that's not what you do, Lanebreak is probably nice, but it's not going to bring in new customers. I don't think it's going to bring in new customers. I don't think it has brought in new customers, but I think they're going to add some games. Maybe they're going to be better. They're going to add some games not only for Bike, they're going to add some games for Tread. And Row will be out at this point. they're going to have some games for Row. In fact, games will probably come bundled with Row when it's launched late 2022, early 2023. So we're going to get some more games. Here we're looking at items on the bottom. We're talking about building subscription growth or big programs or initiatives that Peloton is undertaking or can undertake. We're in the fictional part of the timeline. We're in 2023, 2024, 2025. These are years no one's talking about. Mental health. That's all I have notated here. You're probably looking at it go, you got mental health there. Well, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. This is what it means. They're going to have a mental health initiative. We all know there's a lot of crises, whether they're perceived or actual, of mental health right now. And I think they're only going to continue to get worse. And a lot of the IPOs, the Kickstarter campaigns, a lot of the apps, programming coming out outside Peloton, these people, all the entrepreneurs who are building new companies, a lot of it is centered around mental health. I think we're going to see a formalized mental health initiative by Peloton. They already have meditation. They already have, I guess you could say, restorative yoga or just yoga in general. But Peloton, if you listen to the instructors, are constantly preaching mental health. It's not a formalized program that they have, but I think we're going to see modalities, which is a fancy word in the industry, meaning disciplines. So disciplines is like strength, cycling, yoga. Those are also called modalities. I think we're going to see a whole modality regimen, audio, video, other, around mental health. And this is going to be part of their social governing aspect. I don't think it's necessarily going to bring in more customers, but I think it's a passion that Peloton has. I think we're going to see a whole initiative with different software avenues and content and programming coming along with mental health. It seems to where the industry really wants to plow money right now. I don't see why Peloton would not already have that in their playbook. Metric dashboard. Technically, they're going to enter Mexico and Spain. They already have the Spanish languaging content down. Spain, from my research, they're already doing imports into Spain as part of the Germany and England delivery. There's ports there. So I think they already have a presence of sorts. It's just a logistics presence. They have a presence in Spain. Spain's not going to be a reach. Mexico, we know, is not a reach. They've already reserved those domains. They've reserved a lot of domains. I could tell you they've reserved 20 different countries' domains. They already have Mexico and Spain. That is not a reach. I think those are the next two to go. I think while their plates are full now with the rebuilding, right there in the rebuilding years, like sports teams, all their pro players left, and now they got the new recruits in. They got to go through a couple years of pain. That's what Barry is doing right now. They could roll out to Mexico and Spain now. They don't have the bandwidth to do it. I'm looking at these two countries being the next rollouts. I think we'll see them in 2023. I'd like to see them at least in 2023. And I think with the launch of Mexico and Spain, I think we're going to finally get away from classes being from, if you include the London, Germany teachers, they kind of teach, if you put in Eastern time, US Eastern time, from maybe as early as like 3 a.m. until generally they quit around 7 p.m. if you're on. So it's really daylight hours in the US and very morning to daylight hours, and then you don't get any more live classes. I think once we get the next set of countries in, live classes will be 24/7. So if you wake up or are still up from your night, there's going to be a whole lot of content for you, live content for you to take. Very soon following that, finally, gosh, I hope this happens. Finally, there's been no reason for a delay of this. Zero reason to delay for global digital app availability. This is a digital app. This is $12.99 a month, people. They don't have a connected piece of equipment. They use their Echelon or what have you, or they just do yoga in their bedroom with their iPad. There's no reason global digital app availability should not have occurred by now, other than Peloton HQ is swamped with everything we already know is going on. I don't need to rehash it. I think in 2023, they may squeak it out to eventually open it May not be like global, like every single nation on the earth, but we will get a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen nations that finally can just go to their iPad, their iPhone, their Android tablet, and access Peloton. That'll be largely in English, Spanish, or German, but we all know English speaking, or at least familiarity with English, should not be a barrier to a lot of these other foreign nations. There's a lot of people who are competent in the English language outside of the US, UK, Australia, what have you. There's no reason to put that out. This is just we're just talking about bandwidth and trade paperwork. That's the only barriers stopping global digital app availability. That brings us to functional strength device. I don't know when it's going to happen. We know Peloton abandoned their functional strength device. They had one at least rumored on the books, and then it was rumored that it fell into the trash can after Barry took control. They have to get into the market. I think they will. I don't know the time. I'm going to put it right here because there's only so much you can achieve in every year. You have to pace these big rollouts apart. They will have a strength device, and I firmly believe it'll be via acquisition. I don't know who it is, but Barry's not into hardware as much as John was. I'm sure he appreciates it, but their R&D department was out of control. Hopefully it's now in control, but if you look at the their 10Qs from ages past, their R&D spending was ridiculous. And that had to have been one of Barry's first cuts. And to say, listen, let's get the rower out. Let's bring the horses back into the barn and let's run the business. And when they get enough bandwidth, they're going to tackle functional strength device and they're just going to buy someone out. Put a Peloton logo on it, put the Peloton app we all love on it, and get it out to the market. So now we're getting kind of very, very far. Fleet management and monitoring. I believe the Peloton community will continue to grow. It will continue to grow in governments, in education, and in corporate settings. All of these have large amounts of people. We're not talking about, Mary's soap shop ran out of her garage and she has 2 employees. We're talking about government where you have 200,000 soldiers, and education. You're limited by county. So let's just say you have 10,000 employees in education, or local government, you have 1,000 local government employees, or corporate, you have 1,000 to 5,000. Eventually, these metrics, the rich metrics, which I've been harping on Peloton to take advantage of, not only the metrics need to be rolled up to corporate for insurance purposes, talk about that later, but they also need to be up for device management. So if you're buying all your employees, or at least a portion of your employees who agree, maybe it's it's co-pay type thing. These devices, there needs to be a device management policy. For the IT people, there are fleet management or device management policies to manage all corporate employees' iPhones so they can be remotely wiped or remotely updated or put new apps out, or the government devices, what have you. Right now, as far as I'm aware, there is no fleet management or wide device management and monitoring at Peloton. I think ultimately, to really spur the big ticket subscription ads, they're going to need something like fleet management and monitoring software. As consumers, you will never see it. As the education heads, as the government heads, as the corporate heads, they will work with it to control those devices and acquire any metrics they need to acquire across the base of their employees. I think they should work on that. I think they're going to enter more EU markets in 2024. Guide, as unsuccessful as I think Guide has been, to be honest with you, I think it's more than think. I know that Guide has been rapidly unsuccessful. There is potential value in Guide. Even if they get a functional strength device, I'm not going to go into it, but I think ultimately they're going to put a Guide version 2 out there at a minimum to give rep counting. They probably can do rep counting if they really, really wanted to on Guide 1, but I think they're going to do a whole hardware revision sometime in the future of guide and add some sort of value add that we're simply not aware exists at this point. Because right now the value proposition of guide's price versus what it gives you over just an iPad or using Peloton on your television, the value proposition is not there. I think it potentially can be there. I think the hardware may need to be updated for guide version 2, or they may simply roll it out to something like Tempo Move where it uses your iPhone. Either way, I think the functionality of guide will be ultimately revised. I don't think it'll be trash canned. I think it's capable of being trash canned. I mean, you can tell I'm not overly excited about guide, but I think it will limp along and get a revision. That takes us out. Now we're getting out here. 2025, which seems ages. If you ask anyone on finance Twitter, which is where I kind of hang out, let's talk about Peloton in 2025. No one will respond to you because all of them will just simply post some kind of a meme of a clothes hanger and they'll say, "Isn't Peloton dead yet?" That's the only response you're going to get. No one believes Peloton will be around that long. I believe Peloton will be around that long. That's why I'm doing this video. I'm making no comment on the stock price whatsoever. It may be huge. It may be zero. But I think there is value in Peloton. Anyone who follows me knows I want people to be fit. I don't care whether it's Peloton or something else. I happen to follow Peloton. But I don't care. I want America to be better in their health. That's what drives me to do what I do. But I've chosen to follow Peloton, and that's why we're here. I think they're going to be around. I think they are still the gorilla in the room. I think no one has the stance that they have. No one comes close to where Peloton is. They are simply not executing well, to put it mildly. So 2025, I'm going to go out here on a limb and I'm going to tell you what, right now, today, it could change tomorrow. I got an edit button on this thing. I got to edit it right after this thing. Their apparel, which, whatever, I'll put it on here. I think at this point, since they've now entered other EU markets, they're Mexico and Spain, they're going to be rolling out here, as you can see, into Asia Pacific countries, South America, things like Brazil. The global presence will be there is I think they will actually license out their apparel to brick and mortar shops and or other online shops where you don't necessarily have to go to, what is it, store.onepeloton.com or apparel.onepeloton.com, which is frankly lame. But I, for whatever it's worth, it doesn't cost them a lot. If someone wants to buy 300 shirts and sell it in their brick and mortar store, Peloton just washes their hands, sends out 300 shirts, and collects the check. Doesn't cost them a whole lot. So I think eventually the apparel and accessories will be outside of the Peloton domain. And now we're getting late into 2025 and beyond. There's nothing beyond this last one up here. After bike, after tread, after row, after functional strength. So now they basically we've really just gone up from 4 SKUs, bike, tread, guide, app. Now we've added 2 more, row and strength. Now they have 6 SKUs. After functional strength, and think of something like the Tempo Studio or the Tonal, which each do dozens of different exercises. Whereas if you go to a gym, there may be 20 or 30 machines. You do your flies, you do your leg presses, you do your squats, you do your bench press. All of those machines are essentially kind of distilled into these functional strength devices. After bike, tread, row, and functional strength device, there's really nothing else. There's no other hardware device I can think they can go into, which is sad because on this top row, we have bike, tread, guide, row, functional strength. What other conceivable strength device, if they still have Precor does all the other stuff you do in the gym. I don't think they will. I can't think of any mainstream device that they could actually put out there, which only goes to services, which Barry is a pro at. But now we're left with services. I've been harping on Peloton about lobbying government for various things. Anyway, I'm not gonna go in. I've got lots of thoughts there. That's not time and place for this video. The best I can come up with, Peloton should be joined by name in insurance policies. All of us have health insurance policies. A lot of our insurance policies say, all right, if you join a gym, we'll pay for half the membership. It's not if you join a Peloton, we'll pay for Peloton. It's like if you join a gym, okay, well, I joined Peloton. All right, we'll pay half the Peloton. It's non-named. Peloton with its metrics, and you can tie metrics to a user and upload those users' metrics to the insurance company, ignoring all privacy concerns. All those are sitting there for the insurance to say, well, goodness, Bob Treemore has worked out every single day for the last 3 months. I'm looking at his resting heartbeat. I'm looking at his heart rate zones. I'm looking at the time he invested in strength and cardio. I'm stupid not to give this guy a break because, one, I want to keep him on the corporate policy, and two, he deserves it. The former being the more. We have actuarials here. We all know what actuarials are. But Peloton needs to be named on insurance policies as a partner where you get a bike at a discount or like gratis, or maybe you pay for it, but in turn, you get X percentage off your health insurance bill, or the corporation does. They're not making any headway there that I've seen. Zero. I look at it pretty much every day. Well, not every week. I'm looking for data on this, and I can't find it. They're not making any headway. I have to assume they're working on it. They're making no headway. I don't know why they're not making headway, but I'm going to presume in 2025 they still have almost no insurances with named partnerships for Peloton, which is crazy. You get something like Blue Cross Blue Shield, something like that. Hundreds of thousands of customers could automatically be exposed or get discounts to your devices and or your subscriptions. That's huge because Peloton's business is not hardware. Peloton's business is subscription revenue. Peloton has to get people paying $44 a month or paying $12.99 a month or some corporate wellness program, which is some discount off that. The more millions of people they get paying that $44 a month or some variation of, the less hardware matters. And we've already seen what hardware do you do after this. If Peloton continues to hit their head and they can't break these actuarials at Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever, Sigma, name it, I think ultimately they're going to take matters in their own hands, or at least consider it, and build their own insurance co-op. The Peloton community is stronger than any other community that I'm aware of. There's got to be communities out there that are stronger, no doubt. But it is a strong community. Whether they do just a Peloton Insurance, period, health insurance is here what we're referring to, or a co-op, I think it's realistic. And this is the type of service that gets them the type of revenue they need to last beyond 2026. This opens whole new doors. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end it. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm not even going to kind of market this video, or I don't plan to anyway. I'm just going to drop it down, and people who follow Bob Treemore may ultimately find it. But thanks for lasting this long. Maybe or maybe not. We'll talk to you later. But have a good day, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.